What if I told you that one of the most infamous terrorist organizations in modern history may have roots in the very institutions that claim to fight against it? It sounds like a plot twist straight out of a political thriller, but history is often stranger than fiction. In this video, we unravel one of the most controversial debates in geopolitical history. Did the US government create Al-Qaeda? Stay with us as we sift through declassified documents, historical alliances, and inconvenient truths that challenge everything we thought we knew. Before we dive into the conspiracy theories, let's establish the facts. Who exactly is Al-Qaeda? When and how did they come into existence? The story begins in the 1980s, during the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan, when a young Osama bin Laden emerged as a key figure in the resistance. But was bin Laden acting alone, or was there a hidden hand supporting his mission? In the thick of the Cold War, the US saw an opportunity in Afghanistan. The Soviet invasion of 1979 was the perfect excuse for Washington to bleed its adversary dry. Enter Operation Cyclone, a covert CIA program designed to fund, train, and arm Afghan fighters known as the Mujahedeen. Were these freedom fighters merely pawns in a much bigger chess game? And could this strategic move have sown the seeds for something far more dangerous? How much money did the US pour into this war? The numbers are staggering. Billions of dollars funneled into the hands of militant groups, some of which had extreme ideological leanings. Was the US playing with fire? And if so, did they underestimate the flames? Osama bin Laden, from ally to enemy. At the time, a young Saudi named Osama bin Laden was among those receiving logistical and financial support. He was a key financier, helping funnel resources into Afghanistan. But here's the million-dollar question. Did the US directly fund bin Laden? The answer might shock you. As the war came to an end in 1989, the Mujahedeen had won. But what happens when highly trained militants, emboldened by victory, have no war left to fight? Many of them, including bin Laden, turned their focus elsewhere, leading to the formation of Al-Qaeda. But was Al-Qaeda's rise really an accident? Or was it a monster created by a government that lost control of its own creation? The term blowback is a CIA term for unintended consequences of covert operations. By the early 90s, the US found itself dealing with a new reality. The very fighters they had once armed were now turning against them. Was this betrayal inevitable, or could history have taken a different course? Fast forward to 1991, Saddam Hussein invades Kuwait. The US steps in with a massive military presence in Saudi Arabia. But this decision outraged bin Laden, who saw foreign troops on Islamic Holy Land as an act of war. Could this moment have been the final push that led to 9/11? Long before 9/11, the first World Trade Center attack occurred in 1993. The perpetrators, individuals with ties to the Mujahedeen network. Was this a warning sign that the US ignored? Did the government fail to recognize the monster it had unleashed? September 11th, 2001 changed the world. The attacks were orchestrated by Al-Qaeda, but could they have happened without the prior US involvement in Afghanistan? Could history have taken a different path if the US had never engaged in Afghanistan decades earlier? After 9/11, the US launched its war on terror. But was this war a genuine fight against terrorism, or did it serve other political and economic interests? And more importantly, did it actually strengthen Al-Qaeda instead of weakening it? The 2003 invasion of Iraq was justified with claims of weapons of mass destruction, but many argue that this war only fueled more radicalization, strengthening groups like Al-Qaeda. Did the US unintentionally create more enemies than it destroyed? After bin Laden's death in 2011, many assumed Al-Qaeda would crumble, but the reality was different. The organization adapted and evolved, spreading its influence across multiple continents. Did the US truly eliminate the threat, or just change its form? ISIS emerged as an even more brutal offshoot of Al-Qaeda. But here's the kicker. Many of its leaders were once Mujahedeen fighters trained in the 1980s. Are we trapped in an endless cycle of creation and destruction? From Afghanistan to Iraq to Syria, US foreign policy has had unintended consequences time and again. Could a different approach have prevented the rise of these extremist groups? Is it time for the US to rethink its global strategy? So did the US government create Al-Qaeda? The truth is complex. While the US may not have directly formed the group, its actions undeniably set the stage for its rise. History is rarely black and white, but understanding its shades of gray is crucial if we want to avoid repeating the same mistakes. What do you think? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, because the more we understand history, the better we can shape the future.